Hook it and cook it. From the catch to the kitchen, it's your front row seat to learn mouth-watering new ways to fix seafood. It's time for Hook It and Cook It.
Welcome to Hook It and Cook It. I'm your host, Frank Willem. Today, you're going to learn how to cook grilled red snapper with Chef Robby Holmes from the Beach Grill at Island View Casino. But before we cook it, we got to hook it. Let's head out. Whenever we leave the dock to go snapper fishing, we're pretty sure we won't come back empty-handed, and we'll probably even limit out. Of course, that has a lot to do with the limit of only 2 per person. Generally, we avoid established fish havens and head for small structure that we marked over the years in water over 100 feet deep. Seconds after the bait reaches the bottom, you usually either have a snapper hooked or your bait's been stolen. While many anglers are not pleased about a limit of 2 snapper per person and the short season, no one can argue that the fish seem to be plentiful. With their bright red bodies and pearl white bellies, snapper are truly a beautiful fish. They reach maturity at a length of 15 inches, but the common adult length is more like 24 to 39 inches. Though they can reach 85 pounds and live over 100 years. Because of the tight limits, we generally shoot for 10 to 20 pound fish. Back at the dock, it's always fun to unload the fish box and review our catch. Then it's time to clean fish, after which comes the very best part, cooking and eating them. That was fun. And now that we've got some red snapper, it's time to put it on the grill. And that's just what we're going to do after this short break. Welcome back to Hook It and Cook It. Well, we've got our red snapper, and now Chef Robby's going to show us how to prep it before we put it on the grill. Robby, we got a gorgeous snapper here. Tell us what you're going to do with it today.
Well, I'm happy to be on the show, and I'd like to do a grilled red snapper. We're going to do it over a charcoal heat, and with the salad, or with the fish, a really seasonal salad. So we've got some cauliflower that's roasting already on the grill, and that will later get combined with grapes and some feta cheese and raisins to give it a really good start to the fall.
Now you mentioned that this is a template, sort of a seasonal thing.
Yeah, I don't think it's so important with this for people to worry about precision so much as let's get in the habit of going to the farmer's market and finding what's in season. So by all means, if you have Brussels sprouts and a persimmon in the back of the fridge, then don't go out and buy cauliflower.
Right, exactly. Okay. Well, I guess the first step is to clean the fish. You want to show us any tips there for cleaning fish?
Well, I'm certainly not the master, but the first step is to source or find the best quality fish. And of course, we're looking for firm flesh, we're looking for bright eyes, and of course, no off-putting odors. But yeah, you should really, the best fishmongers will allow you to get in there and see and touch what you're buying, so that's important. So yeah, I just have a nice clean cutting board. I'm using a flexible boning knife and then a slicing knife.
Okay.
So we're going to start by making an incision here. Follow all the way down to the backbone. Make a left. And then the idea is just to stay as close to the spinal column as we can. Not sawing. Now when we reach this center bone, we're going to angle the knife downwards. Come on through. And then we remove the first fillet. Flip the fish over.
Now what sort of portion size do you normally shoot for?
In the restaurant I go between 6 and 6.5 ounces, but I think important at home is just to kind of let the fish tell you what it wants to be portioned as. Sometimes you get fish that you can cut a giant steak out of, and then other times one fillet or one side of the fish will be sufficient.
So you said let the fish tell you. Does the fish speaks to you? Is that it?
Well, we won't get into my psychological disposition, but I think, yeah, the fish whisperer, maybe we'll call it.
I see.
Okay.
Well, that was quick.
So then we've got our 2 sides. Now probably today we'll take the fat portion off of both of them, but the first thing we want to do is just to clean up the fillet.
Uh-huh. You cut out most of the rib cage, right?
Yeah, that's right, so we don't have to worry about that. Now we're going to have some pin bones running here that with a pair of needle nose pliers or these pin bone tweezers, we can just take right out, and the water helps it work off of the tweezers.
That's something I've never done before. Do you cut the bloodline out normally or not? On a fish, a smaller fish.
On a fish this small, I wouldn't worry about it. It won't have a pronounced flavor. But with something like mahi, some longline species, you're going to want to get rid of that.
That gets rid of the oily taste, oily flavor,
sure.
a fishy taste, I guess, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So now with the other fillet, we remove.
Now about how much does each of those fillets weigh, roughly?
These two look about 10 or 11 ounces. So, but I think for the sake of evenness, I think what we'll do is take the fat portion off of both, giving us a 6-ounce fillet.
And you leave the skin on, right?
I do. Now with certain fish, you're not going to be able to eat through the skin, of course, but with something like this, I think it grills nicely, provided that you take the precaution to get the grill super hot. Don't move the fish around, let it get a little char on it.
Now we didn't show, but you'd scaled it first, right?
The fish was scaled first. You can obviously have your fish dealer do that for you. And then I'm also going to score the skin. I find that it keeps it from curling up. We don't want to go into the flesh, but just right on top. Okay, so that gives us 2 nice fillets ready to go on the grill.
Now having the grill here in the middle of the cooking area is very convenient. It looks like a really good design. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure, I was really excited to come here. I've worked on grills before, of course, but having the feel of home, I guess, with the charcoal in the restaurant, people can taste the difference for sure. And I like it from a cooking standpoint. I can teach people to have a little more finesse, you know what I mean? And you have to know when to add and to give it 20 minutes to heat up.
Well, plus this is small enough. This is about the same size as someone's home grill, right?
Yeah, and I think that's what's important about this recipe. So I've got the cauliflower going. We're going to do the fish right next to it, so the entire dish could be done in the backyard. You bring it inside and put it together.
What about the charcoal? Any tips on the type of charcoal?
Well, I prefer the lump charcoal, hardwood lump charcoal, but I have found that here with this volume, if this grill is filled up with hardwood charcoal, it's way too hot. So we like to mix it with some briquettes, and it provides some evenness.
All right, we've got our snapper fillets ready to go. When we returned, it's time to season and grill them. I can't wait for you to see how easy this is. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Hook It and Cook It. We're at the Beach Grill at Island View Casino with Chef Robby, and he's showing us how to make grilled red snapper. It's time to season the fillets and get them on the grill. Well, now we got the fish clean. It's ready to go on the grill. Take us away.
All right, so the first thing is that the grill is lightly oiled. It's nice and hot. The coals have formed a white shell around them so that they're ready to go. The cauliflower is about finished cooking.
What kind of oil do you use? Just regular olive oil?
Just canola oil.
Canola oil.
Yeah. Or vegetable oil, whatever you have around. Okay. We're going to season the fillets really simply with salt and a little bit of crushed fennel seed, okay? Now, if you don't have this at home, then by all means, you can use salt.
You mentioned, like with the salad, that to kind of use what you have on hand, the same with the spices?
Exactly. Now, I think the important thing to remember is that if you've gone out and found the best possible fish, then you can't go wrong. You know what I mean? So that's the key. All right, so we're going to start skin side down on this hot grill.
So you spice it first and then put a little canola oil on.
Yeah, either or. So The key is going to be to allow this to cook until it releases itself from the grill. If we go to moving it around too much now, it's going to stick. Okay?
So just let it sit there.
Just let it sit there.
Do you at any point flip it or just?
Yeah, we'll eventually flip it, but the key is to cook it the majority of the way through on the skin side, and then we'll kind of turn it and what we call kiss it, or just briefly cook it on the second side.
Just to put the grill marks on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so now the cauliflower, which has been roasting with just a little bit of olive oil and salt and pepper, it's gotten nicely toasty brown and cooked through. We can add it. Still hot to the mixing bowl. And then what we're going to do is begin forming our salad. So we've got about a teaspoon of Creole whole grain mustard, a quarter cup or so of golden raisins. I'd say half a teaspoon to a teaspoon of honey.
I noticed you have everything measured out. What's the term for that?
Well, in the kitchen we call it mise en place, and it's vital because in the heat of battle, you don't want to go looking for your stuff, right? So this is rice vinegar. Now you could use regular distilled white vinegar if you had it, or red wine vinegar.
Okay.
I would say 2 tablespoons of that. Now some halved red grapes. About a half a cup of toasted pecans, just roughly chopped. And some feta. Now, cheese and fish is not a combination that I do very often. In fact, I find it pretty off-putting. But in the case of the feta, it's so fresh and salty, it kind of adds this umami.
Dimension.
Yeah, another dimension to it, and which I happen to like, especially with the grill. Okay.
Is this a recipe you came up with yourself, or has this one been around? Or?
It is. I think there's not too much original anymore. I mean, everything's inspired by something else, but I kind of start each season with
What is this now?
a couple tablespoons of chopped parsley.
Okay, all right.
Or any other fresh herb that you have.
Well, I interrupted you, but I know that you bring a breadth of experience. I mean, you're just not from the Mississippi coast. You've been up in New York and out in the West Coast. Do you find that the experience you gained there has been applied here?
Yes, sir. I think that when I started washing dishes down on the coast, and then left when I was about 20 and went to San Francisco, and so the really formative years of my cooking were with the produce of Northern California.
Okay.
So I learned that there, learned a few things in New York, and then to be able to bring it back to where I'm from and apply it to food that I grew up eating is really important to me, because the techniques are the same everywhere. It's just that the ingredients change. Okay, so otherwise, with our mise en place already done, the salad is super simple to put together. And it's good.
Good.
Okay, so now,
About how long does the fish need to cook, just roughly?
well, these thicker fillets probably take anywhere from 4 to 5 to 6 minutes. But it depends on how hot the grill is and factors such as that. So,
How hot do you typically like your grill?
I think it gets, at the beginning of service, we probably have it in the 700 to 800 degree range on the hot spots. But the thing with this is you can move it from a hot spot to a cooler spot.
Adjust it.
So we're just looking for some nice color. I say we leave that for another 30 seconds just to get it nice and crusty.
Okay.
And that's one of the things that I love about fish. The fish that I serve with skin is absolutely delicious as long as the skin is crispy. Now, if you don't make the effort to get it crispy, I don't like a soggy piece of fish skin.
It's a little fishy tasting.
Not
actually,
appealing at all, yes.
It's not a nice texture either.
So, but these
So now
are...
the salad's pretty well done. Do you do anything with that before you serve it?
I do not. I think it's ready to go. So we'll go ahead and flip these guys. And you can tell we have a nice crust on the fish.
Yeah.
Okay. And we'll let those finish cooking maybe 2.5, 3 more minutes. and then we'll be ready to plate. So the fish has finished cooking on the flesh side. Just a couple of minutes. We want to take it off when it's still a little bit under, because it'll continue to cook for another minute, a good 2 minutes.
Now, this is red snapper, but like you talked about earlier, using what's available. If you didn't have access to red snapper, what other fishes might work?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind, and it's not very closely related to the snapper, but I think a piece of salmon would work really nicely with a salad like this. Yeah, and salmon takes super well to the grill too. So an oily fish generally is better to grill because it'll, stand up to higher temperatures and not dry out as much.
Would cobia or something like that work as well, you think?
It would work beautifully. In fact, we use mahi, but cobia and amberjack have a little more fat content. A mahi tends to dry out super quickly, so we take it to about medium and then let it just carry over, so it's flaky by the time it gets to the table.
So it doesn't get too dried out.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Well, the snapper's grilled and the salad's made. That means my favorite part is here. When we return, we'll pair it with some wine and dig in. I can't wait.
Well, the snapper looked good. It smelled terrific while he was cooking it. And now is my favorite part. Robby, are we ready to give it a try here?
We are, but I thought in good taste, the interest of good taste, we would try a wine which I think is going to pair pretty nicely with it. Again, just like the recipe that we cooked, don't stress out about finding the perfect bottle. If you've got a Chardonnay that you really happen to like, then by all means drink it. If you want a pint of ale, then by all means drink it.
Drink that.
This is a Viognier from Klein Vineyards in Northern California. It's a super fruity, crisp white wine, and it seems to be almost have a gray, minerally flavor to it. But I think it's going to be really nice, especially with the vegetables and with the flavor generated by the grill. So,
okay.
Just for a taste.
We'll taste this first. That's really nice.
Yeah, so lots of peach and stuff like that. I think it would go good with any fish, but let's taste it with the food.
This is my favorite part. That's incredible. I mean, that really is. You can taste the charcoal, the taste. Just enough. Let me try your salad here.
I think the salad's really going to complement it because you've got flavors of sweet from the fruit, again the crunch from the pecans and the cauliflower, and the feta I just think is a little bit funky and good with it. So.
And you're right, the wine it goes perfect with that. It really does. You outdid yourself. This is fantastic.
Well, thanks. I enjoyed it.
Well, it's a great entree, and I think your warm salad complemented it very well, as the wine. And particularly here at Beach Grill, having the great view, that makes it fantastic for the ambiance. But at home, what else would you suggest people consider doing to complement this, like as a dessert or any other sides?
Well, again, at this time of the year, if you keep in mind just a list of things that are good during the fall, whether it be sweet potatoes or fruits like persimmons, and then we get into cauliflowers. Obviously a cold weather, it's best when the weather starts getting cool. So any of those things, I mean, you could serve this family style with a giant pile of the cauliflower and some roasted sweet potatoes alongside. So I also think that this salad would be just as good with a piece of roast pork, something like that too. So those, you've got a lot of options.
Pretty flexible.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the recipe, of course, will be on our website and Facebook page. And anyone of our viewers that want to try to make this, either to go with their fish or to go with their pork, are welcome to give it a shot. I don't know if they'll be able to do this well. I don't think I could, but you hit a home run here.
Well, thank you very much.
Well, you learned how to make grilled red snapper from a master. I'd like to thank Chef Robby Holmes from the Island View Casino for showing us how it's done. Remember, you can find the recipe on our Facebook or webpage. Join us next time for another delicious edition of Hook It and Cook It.